Maya Collins had never been one to flaunt her success. At 29, she was the director of strategic development at a mid-sized tech company in Austin, Texas, a position she'd earned through relentless work and quiet determination. Her salary was more than comfortable, significantly higher than that of her husband Ryan, a software engineer at a local startup. But money had never been the point. She didn't marry him for status, and he didn't marry her for her paycheck. Their life together was built on small rituals: Saturday morning pancakes, shared playlists during late-night drives, inside jokes whispered over coffee. To Maya, that was enough. That's why Ryan's announcement on a mild Thursday evening caught her off guard. He was standing by the kitchen island, nervously twisting the wedding ring on his finger, a habit he had when trying to soften bad news. "Camilla's coming," he said, not meeting her eyes. "Camilla." Maya paused, setting down the dish towel she'd been holding. "Your sister, Camilla." He nodded, still staring at the countertop. "She's flying in from Istanbul. It's been years since she's visited. She'll be here this weekend." Maya wiped her hands and leaned against the counter. She had heard plenty about Camilla, the older sister who had married well, moved halfway across the world, and never missed a chance to remind people of both. Ryan had always spoken about her with a mix of affection and caution. She was, in his words, a force of nature, brilliant, opinionated, and, at times, unbearably condescending. "Well," Maya said, trying to sound neutral, "it'll be nice to finally meet her." Ryan hesitated, and that pause told Maya there was more. "There's something I should probably mention," he began, rubbing the back of his neck. "I might have simplified a few details when I told her about you." "Simplified?" Maya raised an eyebrow. "What does that mean?" He winced. "I told her you work in an office." "I do work in an office," Maya replied carefully, though she already sensed where this was going. "Yes, but I didn't mention the whole director of strategic development part, or the salary, or, everything." He let out a nervous laugh. "Camilla can be intense about these things. I thought it would just be easier." The words landed heavier than Ryan probably intended. Maya felt a slow, simmering sting spread through her chest. "Easier," she repeated softly, "as in easier than telling her your wife is more successful than you." "That's not what I meant," Ryan said quickly, stepping closer. "It's just, Camilla has strong opinions about people, and I didn't want to spend the whole weekend defending our choices. If she thinks you're just a regular office worker, maybe she'll keep her judgments to herself." Maya stared at him for a long moment. She wasn't angry, not yet, but the disappointment was sharp. She had never measured their worth in titles or paychecks. She didn't expect Ryan to boast about her accomplishments, but hiding them entirely? That felt different. It wasn't humility. It was shame, and not hers. "Okay," she said finally, forcing a small smile. "If that's how you want to play it." Ryan looked relieved, misunderstanding the tone. "Thank you. Really. It's just for a few days. She's staying with Mom, and we're going over for dinner on Saturday. I just want things to be peaceful." "Peaceful," Maya repeated, this time with a hint of amusement. "Sure." Later that night, long after Ryan had fallen asleep, Maya sat by the window of their small apartment, watching the glow of Austin's skyline in the distance. She thought about the woman she was, ambitious, driven, proud of what she'd built, and about the woman Ryan apparently thought his sister wanted to meet. It should have made her furious. Instead, she found herself smiling. If Camilla expected someone ordinary, someone unimpressive, someone she could look down on, then perhaps that was exactly what Maya should give her. Only not in the way Camilla imagined. It was a ridiculous idea, a little reckless, but deliciously tempting. A social experiment disguised as a family dinner. And by the end of it, Maya suspected, it wouldn't be her who felt small. The next morning, the sting of Ryan's words still lingered. But rather than wallow in it, Maya felt something else brewing beneath the surface. Mischief. If Ryan was too afraid to tell his sister the truth about who she was, then fine. She would give Camilla exactly what she expected. Not just the ordinary office worker Ryan had described, but something far more exaggerated, a caricature so vivid that it would force Camilla to look at her own assumptions in the mirror. It began with the closet. Maya stood before rows of tailored blazers, silk blouses, and polished heels. The uniform of the woman she really was. Then she reached past them and pulled out what she hadn't touched in years. A pair of faded jeans with frayed knees, a shapeless t-shirt from a local market, and sneakers whose soles had started to peel. She dug through an old storage box until she found a weathered canvas tote she used to carry in college. It was frayed at the edges, one strap threatening to tear, the polar opposite of the sleek leather bag she usually carried to board meetings. Next came the makeup. She wiped it all away, leaving only a thin layer of tinted moisturizer. Her hair, usually styled into sleek waves, was pulled into a loose, slightly messy ponytail. She stared at her reflection and barely recognized herself. The woman in the mirror looked like someone fresh out of a part-time shift at a discount store, not the director who led high-stakes strategy meetings. She smiled. Perfect. When Ryan walked into the bedroom and saw her, he stopped dead in his tracks. "Maya, what on earth are you wearing?" "Just something casual," she said innocently, turning to face him with an exaggeratedly shy smile. "Casual?" His eyes widened. "You look like, are you serious?" "You told Camilla I was just a regular office worker," she reminded him lightly, tilting her head. "I thought I'd dress the part. Don't you think it sells the story better?" "Maya," he sighed, rubbing his temples. "I didn't mean you had to go that far." "What's wrong?" she teased, raising her voice half an octave, practicing the soft, uncertain tone she planned to use. Is this too low-level for her high standards? Ryan opened his mouth, then closed it again, clearly torn between frustration and disbelief. I don't want this to get weird." "It's just dinner," Maya said with a shrug, slinging the frayed tote over her shoulder. "What's the worst that could happen?" By the time they got into the car that evening, Ryan was still visibly uneasy. As he drove through the streets of Austin, he kept glancing at her, as if hoping she'd change her mind before they arrived. "Listen," he said finally, gripping the steering wheel a little tighter. "Camilla isn't a bad person. She's just particular. She likes things a certain way. She has strong opinions about people and how they live their lives." "Ah," Maya said, looking out the window at the fading orange sky. "So she's a self-appointed expert on how everyone else should live." Ryan exhaled. "Something like that." Maya smiled faintly. "Then I suppose this will be a very educational evening for both of us." As they turned into the quiet neighborhood where Camilla was staying with their mother, Maya adjusted her ponytail and rehearsed a few more lines in her head, adding a touch of provincial naivety to her tone. She wasn't nervous. If anything, she felt strangely calm, almost excited. Camilla thought she was coming to dinner with someone beneath her. Maya intended to let her believe that, and in doing so, show her just how shallow her definition of worth really was. The sun was beginning to dip below the horizon when Ryan pulled the car into the driveway of a modern condominium complex on the quieter side of town. The building was sleek and expensive-looking, its marble facade and manicured entrance practically shouting exclusivity. As they climbed the stairs to the 4th floor, Maya felt Ryan's hand brush hers, a silent plea for her to behave. She only smiled back, the picture of innocence. The door opened before Ryan could knock twice. Standing in the doorway was a woman who looked as though she had stepped out of a lifestyle magazine. Camilla Demir was tall and striking, her posture straight and deliberate, her hair styled into flawless waves that framed a face used to being admired. The emerald green silk dress she wore was perfectly tailored, the kind that whispered money without needing to shout it. A diamond bracelet caught the light as she moved, and her manicured nails gleamed a deep crimson. "Maya, I presume," Camilla said, her lips curving into a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "That's me," Maya said brightly, pitching her voice just a touch too high. "It's so lovely to finally meet you, Camilla. Ryan's told me so much about you." Camilla extended her hand in a way that suggested it was a privilege to shake it. Maya took it with both hands, pumping it enthusiastically. "Wow, your skin is so soft. Do you use one of those fancy European creams?" Camilla blinked, momentarily thrown off, then recovered with a light laugh. "Well, yes, I do pay attention to my skincare." "Come in," she added, stepping aside. "Please, take off your shoes. I just had the place professionally cleaned." Maya stepped inside and had to admit the apartment was impressive. It wasn't enormous, but every inch was curated to scream wealth. Hand-woven Turkish rugs covered the floors, Murano glass vases stood on pedestals, and gilt-framed paintings lined the walls. Even the coffee table was an art piece, holding stacks of glossy auction catalogs and travel books. "It's like a museum in here," Maya exclaimed, eyes wide as she shuffled toward the living room. "I'm afraid to touch anything." Camilla beamed. "Oh, most of this is from our travels. That vase is Venetian glass, and the painting over there is by a contemporary Istanbul artist, Kemal, and I love collecting pieces that reflect our taste." "Kemal is your husband?" Maya asked, pretending to forget the name Ryan had mentioned a dozen times. "Yes," Camilla replied, with the same tone someone might use to say, "Of course." "He owns a chain of luxury hotels in Antalya. We met at one of his properties. Love at first sight. It was magical." Maya clasped her hands together. "How romantic. Ryan and I met on the city bus. I had too many grocery bags, and he offered me his seat." The silence that followed was brief but telling. Ryan coughed into his fist, and Camilla's smile tightened by a millimeter. "Well," she said, "I suppose love finds us in many ways." "It really does," Maya chirped. "I almost dropped a bag of potatoes on his lap. Can you imagine? And now here we are." Camilla pressed her lips together and nodded, clearly unsure how to respond. She quickly pivoted. "Ryan told me you work in an office." "Oh, yes," Maya said, nodding eagerly. "I'm sort of an assistant. I make coffee, copy documents, answer phones, nothing too fancy." "I see," Camilla murmured, and there it was, the flicker of triumph in her eyes, the subtle exhale of relief. Maya could practically hear the thought running through her head. Of course. That makes sense. "It's close to home," Maya added, twisting the strap of her fraying tote bag for effect. "And the boss doesn't bother me too much. It's nice." "I'm sure it is," Camilla replied, her tone dripping with patronizing sweetness. She leaned back into the sofa, satisfied. From the look on her face, she'd already decided Maya was exactly who she wanted her to be. Someone unremarkable, unthreatening, and, most importantly, not her equal. And that was precisely what Maya wanted her to think. Once Camilla decided Maya posed no real threat, she relaxed into the role she clearly relished most, that of the worldly mentor, dispensing wisdom from atop a pedestal. With a glass of imported wine in hand, she leaned back in her chair and began to lecture, her tone dripping with the confidence of someone who had never once questioned her own superiority. "You know, Maya," she began, "in our time it's not enough for a woman just to get married and keep house. A woman must cultivate herself. She should read widely, understand art, follow culture." Maya widened her eyes, nodding enthusiastically. "Oh, absolutely. I read the back of cereal boxes every morning." Camilla blinked, then forced a chuckle, assuming it was a joke. Real art and culture," she clarified. "For example, Kemal and I attend auctions in Istanbul all the time. We've acquired some exquisite pieces. That painting on the wall over there, from an up-and-coming Turkish artist. Very exclusive." "Wow," Maya breathed. "Do you buy them because you like them, or—" "Well," Camilla said with a knowing smile, "partly because we appreciate beauty, of course. but also as investments. Art appreciates in value if you know what you're doing. She set her wine glass down and crossed her legs, the diamond on her ankle bracelet catching the light. Our apartment in Istanbul alone is worth about $1.5 million. Concierge service, gym, private pool, you name it. It's not for everyone. It takes a certain level of success to live like that. $1.5 million? Maya echoed, feigning astonishment. That's a lot of money. Is that like in dollars? Camilla gave a patronizing smile. Yes, dear. US dollars. Gosh, Maya said, biting her lip thoughtfully. I don't really understand money like that. How many potato bags could that buy? Ryan coughed into his glass to hide a laugh, and Camilla shot him a sharp look before continuing. Anyway, we're expanding. Kemal is opening a new resort in Bodrum this year. Just the construction alone is a $5 million investment. $5 million. Maya gasped, eyes wide again. Wow, that's so much. But why? Camilla blinked. Why what? Why do you need so many hotels? Maya asked earnestly. I mean, you can only live in one at a time, right? There was a pause, just a second too long. It's not about need, darling, Camilla said, her voice sharpening slightly as she scrambled to recover. It's about growth. Investments. Capital must work for you. Oh, Maya said, nodding slowly as if processing a complex truth. I guess I never thought about money like that. I usually just try to save a little for my paycheck for emergencies. And how much do you save? Camilla asked sweetly, a predatory glint in her eyes. Last month I managed about $300, Maya said, lowering her gaze as though embarrassed. 300. Camilla repeated the number as if it were an amusing anecdote. My handbag costs more than that. She stood, walking over to a shelf and returning with a structured leather purse. Hermes Birkin, she announced proudly. $12,000. A birthday gift from Kemal. Maya took it reverently, stroking the buttery leather. It's so soft. What makes it cost so much? It's Hermes, Camilla said, clearly annoyed at the question. Prestige. Quality. Exclusivity. Exclusivity. Maya echoed. Does that mean there's only one like it in the world? Of course not, Camilla snapped. But they're made in small batches. There's a waiting list. Oh, like the new iPhones, Maya said brightly. They make just enough to make people want them more. Ryan nearly choked on his drink. Camilla's jaw tightened. It's nothing like that. This is art. It's taste. It's class. I see, Maya said, handing the bag back gently. I have one too. It cost about $50, but it holds way more stuff. Camilla snatched the Birkin from her hands, clutching it protectively, as if Maya's touch might somehow diminish its value. And for the first time all evening, her perfect composure showed a hairline crack. Camilla held the Birkin close, her lips curving into a small, superior smile. You know, she said, turning the bag slightly so the gold hardware caught the light, this costs more than what some people make in an entire year. Maya's eyes went wide, her expression pure awe. Really? Wow. Is it like the only one in the world? Of course not, Camilla replied, her tone betraying the faintest hint of irritation. But not everyone can get one. They're limited. There's a waiting list. Oh, like when Apple releases a new iPhone and everyone lines up because they only make a few at first. Maya said brightly. The room fell silent for a second. Ryan coughed into his sleeve to hide a laugh, but Camilla's composure faltered. It's nothing like that, she snapped. This isn't a phone, Maya. It's art. It's craftsmanship. It's a statement. Maya tilted her head. A statement about what? Camilla blinked. About you. About who you are, the life you live, the circles you move in. Oh, Maya frowned slightly. So if a person's, not very nice but carries one of these, people will still respect them? That's not the point, Camilla said, her voice rising half an octave. It's about presentation. How you present yourself determines how the world treats you. Maya nodded slowly as if taking mental notes. I always thought how you treat other people determined that. Camilla opened her mouth to reply, and then Maya's phone started ringing. The sharp, insistent buzz broke the tension in the room. She glanced at the screen. Oh, it's my boss, she said casually. Then she hit decline and slid the phone back into her bag. Camilla stared at her. Aren't you going to answer that? No, Maya said simply. It's after 6. I'm off the clock. Off the clock. Camilla repeated, horrified. But it's your boss. You could get fired for ignoring a call like that. Maya shrugged. Not really. Our company has a clear policy about work-life balance. I'm not required to respond to emails or calls outside of business hours unless it's an emergency. And it isn't. Camilla blinked at her as though she had spoken another language. That's ridiculous. If you want to move up, you make sacrifices. Sometimes that means giving up your personal time. Maya looked at her curiously. You think that's the only way? That is the way, Camilla said firmly, crossing her legs and straightening in her seat. When you're serious about success, you don't draw lines like that. You do what it takes. You answer the phone. For the first time all evening, Maya felt something inside her shift. Until now, the evening had been a game, a role she was playing, a mirror she was holding up. But now, as Camilla sat there lecturing her about sacrifice and success while wearing a $12,000 purse that someone else had bought, the absurdity of it all became too heavy to ignore. Her smile faded slightly. And that's worked well for you, she asked gently. Answering the phone? Making sacrifices. Camilla didn't notice the change in tone. Of course it has. Look at the life we've built. Our home in Istanbul, the hotels, the travel, all of it is because Kemal and I work hard and don't limit ourselves with silly boundaries. Silly boundaries, Maya repeated softly, mostly to herself. Ryan shifted uncomfortably beside her, sensing the air in the room change. Camilla, however, was too busy basking in her own sermon to realize the ground beneath her feet was beginning to shift. Maya glanced at Ryan, then back at Camilla, and felt the last threads of her patience begin to fray. The act had been fun while it lasted, but there were only so many sermons one woman could listen to, and Camilla had just delivered one sermon too many. The silence that followed stretched just a little too long. Maya sat back against the sofa, her expression thoughtful, her tone suddenly calm, too calm. When she spoke again, the sweetness and bumbling charm she'd worn all evening were gone, replaced by something sharper, steadier. You know, she began softly, I've been sitting here all night listening carefully, and I realized something. Camilla, still basking in her own self-congratulation, arched a brow. Oh, and what's that? That for the past 2 hours, Maya said, her voice cool and measured. You haven't told me a single thing about your life that actually matters. Camilla blinked. Excuse me. I mean, I know the price of your apartment in Istanbul. $1.5 million, right? I know how much the Birkin costs, how much you're investing in a new hotel. I know all the numbers. Maya's gaze met hers, steady and unflinching. But I don't know anything about you. Camilla let out a tight laugh. I'm not sure I follow. Where's the joy? Maya asked. Where's the excitement? The passion? You told me about square footage and concierge services, but not about what you love about Istanbul. You told me about hotel chains and investments, but not about what inspires you, what makes you wake up in the morning. She leaned forward slightly. You haven't even asked your own brother a single question. Not one. Not how he's doing. Not if he's happy, not what his life looks like now. The words hit the room like a gust of cold air. Ryan shifted beside her, clearly stunned. Camilla's smile faltered. Of course, I care about my brother, she said stiffly. I just assumed. You assumed a lot tonight, Maya interrupted, her voice still even. You assumed I was beneath you because of the clothes I wear. You assumed my worth based on how much money I make. You assumed that because I don't live in a $1 million apartment or collect overpriced handbags, I must not have anything to offer. Camilla's face flushed. Well, you did say you're just a secretary. There it was, the sharp edge beneath her composure. Maya smiled faintly. Ah yes, the just a secretary part. Because that's the most important thing to you, isn't it? Status, titles, appearances. Camilla crossed her arms. You can't blame me for noticing reality. Not everyone is cut out for a certain lifestyle. Her tone turned mocking. Some people are perfectly content making $25,000 a year and calling it a day. Is that what this is about? Maya asked quietly, proving that I'm not good enough for Ryan. Camilla's eyes narrowed. I never said you didn't have to, Maya said, her voice rising just slightly, though it never lost its calm. This whole evening wasn't about getting to know me. It was about measuring me, weighing me, deciding whether I meet your invisible standard. She tilted her head. And the thing is, you were never actually measuring me. You were measuring your own comfort. You needed to feel superior. How dare you? Camilla hissed, her composure cracking. You come into my home. You insult me. No, Maya said, her voice firm now. I'm not insulting you. I'm holding up a mirror. You've built your identity around things with price tags, bags, apartments, investments. But none of those things tell me who you are. They just tell me what you've bought. Camilla opened her mouth, then closed it again, words failing her for the first time that night. Ryan stared at his sister, then at Maya, and something in his expression shifted. A flicker of pride, maybe, or recognition. Maya stood slowly, smoothing the faded denim of her jeans. You wanted proof I'm not enough for him, she said quietly. But the truth is, I don't need your approval. And your opinion says a lot more about you than it does about me. Camilla's cheeks burned crimson, her mouth working soundlessly as Maya's words settled heavy in the room. The act was over, and the woman sitting before her was no one's fool. The silence that followed Maya's words seemed to stretch on forever. Camilla sat frozen, her manicured fingers tightening around the armrest of the sofa, her polished composure slipping away piece by piece. Ryan said nothing, his eyes darting between the two women, the sister who had always commanded the room and the wife who now, with quiet certainty, had taken control of it. Maya let the stillness linger before she spoke again. Here's the thing, Camilla, she said softly. Money is a tool. It's not evil and it's not noble. But by itself, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't make you kind. It doesn't make you worthy of respect. It doesn't make you better than anyone else. Camilla scoffed, though the sound lacked conviction. Spoken like someone who doesn't have any. Maya smiled faintly. Oh, I have plenty. That's the part you don't understand. Camilla's head snapped up. What? Maya rose from her seat, brushing non-existent dust from her jeans. You see, I'm not a secretary. I'm the director of strategic development at a tech company here in Austin. I oversee multi-million-dollar accounts. I make $180,000 a year. She paused, letting each word settle in the air. And that $50 tote you mocked earlier? I didn't buy it because I had to. I bought it because I wanted to. Because I choose to spend money on things that actually matter to me. Camilla stared at her as if she were seeing her for the first time. The color drained slightly from her face, and for once, words failed her. Maya continued, her tone calm and unwavering. I could buy a dozen Birkin bags if I wanted to, but they wouldn't make me smarter or kinder or a better wife. They wouldn't make Ryan love me more. And they certainly wouldn't make me respect myself any more than I already do. Ryan exhaled sharply, leaning back against the sofa. You make 180, he started, then stopped himself, shaking his head in disbelief. I didn't even know it was that much. You never asked. Maya said gently, glancing at him. And honestly, I didn't think it mattered. Because it doesn't, at least not to me. Camilla swallowed, her voice suddenly small. Then why pretend to be something else? Because I wanted you to see how you treat people when you think they're beneath you, Maya replied. And I wanted you to ask yourself why. Why someone's worth should change in your eyes because of a number in a bank account or a label on a handbag. Camilla shifted uncomfortably, the confidence she'd worn like armor slipping from her shoulders. Ryan, you didn't tell me. Ryan let out a breath, rubbing his temples. I didn't tell you because I knew exactly how you'd react. And I was right. Maya turned toward him, her voice softening but still edged with something firm. Ryan doesn't mind that I make more money than he does. That's not what this was about. He just didn't want me to deal with this. She gestured lightly toward Camilla. The judgment, the condescension, the assumption that I had to be less than you to make you comfortable. Camilla stared at the floor, her cheeks flushed. I didn't mean— Yes, you did, Maya interrupted, though her tone wasn't cruel, just steady. And that's okay, because now you know. And maybe next time, you'll think twice before deciding someone's value based on how much they earn or what they wear. She picked up her frayed tote and slung it over her shoulder. Now, if you'll excuse us, I think this dinner is over. And with that, Maya turned toward the door. Behind her, Camilla sat speechless, and Ryan, still processing everything, followed her into the hallway, the weight of the evening hanging heavy in the air. The ride home was wrapped in silence. Streetlights flashed rhythmically across the windshield as the car rolled through the quiet Austin streets. But neither Maya nor Ryan spoke. The weight of the evening hung heavy between them, not angry exactly, but dense and complicated, like a storm that had finally broken and left the air too still. Ryan kept his eyes on the road, his hands gripping the steering wheel a little too tightly. Twice he opened his mouth as if to speak, then closed it again. Finally, just as they turned onto their street, he exhaled and said quietly, I'm sorry. Maya turned her head, slightly, her voice calm. For what exactly? For all of it, Ryan admitted. For not being honest with Camilla. For downplaying who you are. For letting her think you were someone else. I thought I was protecting you. But now I see how much that must have hurt. It did, Maya said after a pause, her tone soft but steady. Not because I need you to brag about me. I don't care if your sister knows my salary or my title. But when you hide it, it feels like you're ashamed of it. Or worse, ashamed of me. Ryan's shoulders slumped. I wasn't ashamed. God, Maya, I've never been more proud of anyone in my life. He hesitated, struggling for the right words. Camilla has this way of making everything a competition. I didn't want to put you in her crosshairs. I didn't want you to feel her judgment. Maya stared out the window, watching the blurred glow of passing storefronts. There's a difference between not wanting a fight and pretending there's nothing worth fighting for, she said quietly. I don't need you to shield me from her. I need you to stand beside me. Ryan nodded slowly, absorbing her words. You're right. I should have. And I will, from now on. I promise you, I will never downplay who you are again. Not to make someone else comfortable. Not ever. The car slowed to a stop in front of their building. Ryan turned off the engine, but didn't move to get out. Instead, he reached for her hand. I'm sorry, he said again, his voice breaking just a little. You deserve better than how I handled this. Maya squeezed his hand gently, meeting his eyes for the first time since they'd left Camilla's. Then learn from it, she said simply. 2 days later, Camilla boarded a flight back to Istanbul. There was no goodbye, no text, not even a polite message to Ryan. She disappeared as abruptly as she had arrived, leaving behind an echo of uncomfortable silence and a lesson she hadn't intended to teach. Maya didn't bring it up, and Ryan didn't press the subject. Life returned to its rhythm. Work, coffee, late-night shows, but something had shifted between them. It wasn't anger or resentment. It was clarity. They understood each other a little better now, where they had stumbled and where they would walk stronger. On the following Sunday morning, Maya woke to sunlight spilling across the bed and the faint hum of Ryan typing on his phone beside her. She rolled over, still half asleep. "What are you doing?" "Just posting something," he murmured. Curious, she reached for her own phone and saw the update a moment later. A candid photo of the two of them at a barbecue weeks earlier, Maya laughing mid-sentence, Ryan looking at her like she was the only person in the world. Beneath it, he had written a simple caption, "With the smartest, strongest, most extraordinary woman I've ever known." Maya felt her chest tighten, a slow smile spreading across her face. It wasn't about the title. It wasn't about the salary. It was about being seen, fully, openly, and without apology. And as Ryan slipped his arm around her and kissed her temple, Maya knew that for all the noise of that disastrous dinner, something quiet and real had come from it, a promise, and a partnership stronger than before. In the weeks that followed, life settled into its familiar rhythm again. The sting of that dinner faded into something quieter, not quite forgotten, but transformed into a lesson. Maya didn't speak to Camilla again, and Ryan heard only the occasional family update through their mother. But neither of them felt the need to reopen that door. The truth had been spoken, and once spoken, it didn't need repeating. Every now and then, Maya would think about that evening, about the perfectly curated apartment filled with expensive art, the $12,000 handbag held like a trophy, the endless lists of numbers and possessions that Camilla recited as though they were evidence of a life well lived. And each time, she felt the same quiet certainty settle over her. None of it mattered. Camilla could live in the most expensive apartment in Istanbul, host lavish dinners, and glide through life wrapped in luxury brands. But none of those things could hide the hollowness beneath, the emptiness in her words, the absence of warmth in her questions, the brittle fragility that came from needing the world to applaud you just to feel enough. Maya had once thought that winning an argument like that meant proving herself, listing her achievements, flexing her salary, matching Camilla fact for fact. But that night had taught her something deeper. She didn't need to prove anything to someone like Camilla. She didn't need her approval, and she certainly didn't need her validation. Worth wasn't written on a price tag. It wasn't stitched into the leather of a designer bag or carved into the marble walls of a luxury condo. It was measured in smaller, quieter ways, in how you treated people, and how you lifted others rather than looked down on them, and how you chose to define success when no one else was watching. And by that measure, Maya realized she had everything she needed. She had built a life on hard work and integrity. She had a husband who now understood, more deeply than ever, the importance of standing beside her. She had friends who loved her for her heart, not her salary. She had peace, the kind that didn't come from possessions but from knowing who she was and refusing to shrink for anyone. One Saturday morning, weeks after Camilla's visit, Maya found herself at the farmer's market downtown. She wore the same faded jeans and canvas tote she'd carried to that infamous dinner. No one around her knew or cared how much she made, what her title was, or what kind of car she drove. The vendors greeted her by name. A child in line ahead of her waved and offered her a slice of peach. A stranger complimented her smile, and in that moment, Maya felt rich in a way no handbag or penthouse could ever replicate. Camilla had walked away from that night, believing she'd lost the upper hand. But Maya hadn't set out to win a competition. She had simply chosen to stop playing a game that was never worth her time. Because in the end, money fades, fashion changes, and status can crumble overnight. But kindness endures, respect lasts, and dignity, once claimed, can never be taken away. Maya didn't need to prove a single thing. She had already won, in the only way that truly mattered.